What's up, everybody? Welcome to Coronavirus Sports Boredom. This is Ethan with you. Here's Packer Boy, JD.
What's
Uh,
cooking, my dude?
I'm repping the best safety in the league today, Eddie Jackson, but we'll have that debate on a separate day. Today we'll be talking, I'm guessing you're bored as heck with coronavirus. He's bored. I'm bored. So how about we talk about something in sports that actually is happening right now and not something that's not? We'll start it off with NFL free agency. And we got to first off address the elephant in the room, I guess. Start with your thoughts, JD. What are your thoughts on Brady to the Bucs, the fit for the Bucs, the Patriots, and for, of course, Tom Brady?
Well, Brady to the Bucs. He's at the end of his career. I mean, it seems that he wants to go to a place where he can flourish in a different environment, and prove to people that he doesn't need Belichick or the Patriots. But also, I think a big thing is too he wants to create history. I mean, the Buccaneers host the Super Bowl next year, and he's on the Buccaneers. I mean, just not that obviously, but Tom Brady's all about history. He's a winner. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He already has 6 rings, and I think him going to the Bucs personally, good for him. If he wants to do, everyone's done it. We've seen MJ do it. LeBron's done it. I mean, he's always in his prime, I guess. But that's a different debate. But I mean, Brady to the Bucs is interesting. I think it makes that division very interesting because you got the Falcons, Saints, and Panthers now with Bridgewater, Brady, Ryan, and Breeze. So that's a tough division, and yeah.
Well, you bring up a good point with Bill Belichick because I did a little research here. Brady, 219 regular season wins, obviously 6 world championships, but all of those since 2000 with Bill Belichick as the head coach. And, that's always going to hang over his career. Can he win without Belichick? And I don't know if that's right, that a defensive-minded head coach is going to characterize Tom Brady's career, but that will be there for whatever reason. I think it is mutual, but at the same time, Brady's playing well is a lot of what has helped Belichick at the same time. So I think it's an unfair criticism, but that is going to be a criticism. It's been 20 years, and everything has been with him. And
yeah, that's true.
as for the fit with Brady, it's a really odd fit with really Mike Evans, the one aging top receiver target, and that's about it. But he has an opportunity to prove he's the GOAT in a unique way. If he can, and I'm not talking even winning championships, if he can make this team work, it would almost be that last stone in the gauntlet, so to speak, that would make him the GOAT, that he could win outside of that Patriots system. People are saying it tarnishes his legacy. I think it could complete his legacy. We've seen a lot of athletes that have went somewhere, and outside of Peyton Manning, there's not too many athletes who've went somewhere for their last couple of years and really succeeded. But Brady's the guy who's been breaking barriers his whole career. I mean, we're talking that the kid from Michigan who ran like a 5-second 40 and was a 6th-round draft pick, and nobody gave him a chance. But 6 Super Bowl rings later, I'm not going to be the one to doubt the guy. And if he can lead that team to a decent finish and end his career solidly, I think that cements his legacy instead of tarnishing it.
Well, and I think that I 100% agree about everything about the legacy and everything, but I think what everyone's forgetting to look at is the Bucs. I mean, they had Jameis Winston, they had a young guy, they had a young core, and now they just got Brady, and Winston's going to be gone. So do you think that's a good strategic move as Brady's at the end of his career and Jameis Winston was still in his young ages? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's the thing about Brady. I mean, he's only got, 2-3 more years left in him. And I really do feel bad for Jameis. You're talking about a dude who led the league in yards per game, threw for 5,109 yards. And I get he had a league-leading 626 attempts, but I didn't even have to look this up. I don't think ever in history has a dude thrown for 5,000 yards and then had the plug pulled on him. So, I feel bad for Jameis. I get the interception concerns, but at the same time, there's definitely red flags when you pick up a 42-year-old dude and send out a 25, 26-year-old dude or whatever. He had a mediocre team, and everybody talks about you have to win as a QB. Well, he won 7 games. He didn't have a terrible season, so
yeah, that's true.
I don't know. It's really tough.
All right, yeah. Well, since we're talking about quarterbacks, I think let's move on to Cam Newton next. But we're gonna be right back after this short break.
Yardage. Number 25 again off play action and open for the touchdown.
All right, so now we got to break down Cam Newton, a dude who was within the game of winning Super Bowls, has been in MVP discussions, and now does not have a team to go to. So what do you think the future holds for this guy? Do you think there's any good fits for him out there? And how do you think he'll respond to this whole situation?
Well, I think it even goes back to the franchise a little bit because, I mean, they got rid of Rivera. He's a decent coach, but even like that, they got invested in Teddy Bridgewater, who I think is a phenomenal pick for them, and Teddy Bridgewater deserves his own starting team.
So you think that's a good fit for Carolina?
Yeah, I think so. Who knows how it'll play out, but I'm happy for Bridgewater. He deserves it. He was good backup last year when Breeze was out for a little bit. Him and Taysom Hill worked good together, but obviously Bridgewater was the more of the QB. But I think Cam, I do feel bad for him. When he's there 9 years, he almost led him to a championship. But for Cam, I don't know. The problem is with the Panthers who did him wrong. They didn't release him before, right at free agency, because now teams are, there's less options. Yep. And so where he fits in, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds for him. Wherever he does go, it'll be interesting to see. I hope it's soon. He's motivated, man. Whoever gets him, if he got a good young core, watch out, because Cam, he's a big boy. Who knows? I think he's more of a mediocre average quarterback, but he's motivated right now, as he said on social media and everything. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. He's a big dude. He's aging, and, Cam Newton in his prime, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he was the precursor to the Lamar Jackson running style quarterback. You look at his numbers, he's a guy who threw for under 60% in his career. Now, I don't like quarterback rating as a stat, but his is just 86.1 for his career, pretty mediocre. The great Panther teams back in the day when they were Super Bowl contenders, they did not have a ton of great receivers. It was the agility of Cam Newton, the size of Cam Newton, the power of Cam Newton that offense built around to become a dynamic offense. And just because it didn't set the league on fire like Lamar doesn't mean that wasn't still a huge part of his game. Now, the question for him is, and believe me, I think any team would be foolish to not at least sign him as a backup and give him a chance.
He's more than a backup, though.
He has a real opportunity to start. It's just a question of, will a team take a chance on a predominantly running quarterback who's 30 years old coming off a foot injury? You slow down with age, you slow down in the league, just taking a lot of hits. And so it's just interesting his game has kind of probably deteriorated. But again, we've seen a lot of quarterback changes in the league lately. You talk about Mariota being replaced by Tannehill, probably the most notable lately, but it's happening all over the league. I think he gets a backup opportunity to begin with. He has a very real chance to take a starting spot and get back where he wants to be in the league.
Well, even with that, since you brought up Mariota, I was going to go to wide receivers, but we'll go to wide receivers right after Mariota. What do you think of Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota? Who do you think is going to win that starting position over in Las Vegas?
That's a really interesting positional battle. I think both those guys are – I don't know. I feel like both those guys haven't realized their full potential. And I think Mariota's a guy who's had to rely a bit more on his legs throughout his career. And in my opinion, this is just me. I think Derek Carr has the better potential with his arm, which is better tailored to the NFL of today. That's going to be a really intriguing positional battle because it's two quarterbacks who have starter potential but not star potential right now. So either one of them could win that, but my money would be on Derek Carr. That's just me. What do you think?
Well, personally, I like Marcus Mariota as a better quarterback because Derek Carr had a shot last season, and they did okay. But I think if they keep both, they could do, I don't know, a combination of them or show a little Mariota here like Alabama did with Jalen Hurts and Tua for initially, and then they made Tua their starting quarterback when they were transitioning. But I think they got to trade Carr. I don't know. They got to see how Mariota does, but who knows with the Raiders? I mean, they got a long way to go.
They certainly do. And they, again, you talk about Carr having a shot with that team, but at the same time, what did that team have? Last year, the Raiders were the Josh Jacobs show. They did not have very much going on in terms of the receiving core.
Well, speaking of, that's true.
Quarterback is so inseparable from his receivers, it's really tough to give Derek Carr a bad rap. I mean, he's a guy with a lot of potential. People say he's very coachable, and I think he has a very real opportunity to thrive in that system.
Well, let's talk about wide receivers real fast. I mean, there's been big moves. You got Stefon Diggs going to the Buffalo Bills, which was a big move for the Bills to make, and a pretty decent loss for the Vikings. And I mean, that gives the Bills a potential threat with Tom Brady out of New England. I mean, I think that's their division.
Yeah, that's interesting. That kind of leads us into our next section here. Couple of questions about whether or not these guys are a good fit, free agency destination. We'll start out with Diggs to the Bills. Do you think that's a good fit for Stefon Diggs and the Bills franchise?
I think so. Remember when Sammy Watkins was on the Bills before he got traded to the Chiefs? I feel like Stefon Diggs is that kind of guy, but he's more elite. He's a better wide receiver for that. So I think a guy like that on the Bills gives Josh Allen a number one target. That's a good elite wide receiver, and I mean, I think he's a good fit there. Minnesota. I mean, everyone knew Diggs wanted to get out of there. Kirk Cousins and he didn't like the franchise. He just wasn't heart wasn't in there. Buffalo, why do you want to go there with the weather? That's another debate. But I think the Buffalo Bills is a pretty good fit for.
Yeah.
And don't forget they got Shady.
Yep. And here's the thing, like you're talking about Josh Allen, who's already been doing a great job creating stuff with his legs. Now he has a legitimate pocket passer, or he can be a legitimate pocket passer with a number one threat, and we'll see if he's able to really make that work. I think giving a young QB a top target, it's sink or swim for Josh Allen. We'll see what he can do, and I think he has a real opportunity to blossom. And I saw people saying that Stefon Diggs wouldn't be a good fit with Allen because he's bashed the Vikings and all that, and for a guy who's been struggled with completion percentage in his career, that he's going to go bash Josh Allen. Well, what I say to that is, what do the numbers say about Kirk Cousins? I think he's an underrated dude. He's put up good numbers, but it was unable to satisfy Stefon Diggs. He's a weird bird. He's a loose cannon sometimes, and I don't think the quality of his quarterback has anything to do with it. So we'll see if that's a good fit for him.
You said Cousins was underrated?
I think Cousins is a really underrated dude.
That's another discussion, but Cousins is overrated, if anything.
Well, here's the thing about him. I mean, everybody's saying he's overrated so much that he's becoming underrated. Here's the thing. He even won a big game last year. Everything was, can he win the big games, right? He doesn't perform well under the bright lights. Well, all he's done is put up good numbers year after year after year, and he's been hamstrung by mediocre teams, bad defenses, and mediocre receivers. I think Kirk Cousins has done about as well as he could considering the situation just about everywhere he's been. Just because they gave him a big contract doesn't mean that it's his fault for playing the way that he's played.
I agree there. And let's go back to the wide receivers real fast. Hopkins, Johnson.
Yep.
That's a good trade.
Who do you think won that trade?
Personally, I think the Texans lost the trade, so that'd be the Cardinals winning it because, the Cardinals, they still have Kenyon Drake, who's a phenomenal running back. They got him last season, so this could all been leading up to it. But I think with the Texans, you just lost one of the top wide receivers in the league easily. Yep. And David Johnson, he's a decent running back, but I think his time is gone. He's not elite anymore like he was before he tore his ACL. But
for sure,
Hopkins, Kyler Murray, and Larry Fitzgerald, who's the vet on the team, with Kenyon Drake. That's an offense that's going to need to be watched out for. They're not going to be nothing elite yet. We'll give them some time, and they'll do some damage.
Well, I would agree with you. Arizona won that trade. It's similar to the Josh Allen and Diggs thing. It gives a young quarterback who's been scrappy and has made stuff happen, and Kyler Murray, it gives him a legitimate top target. And, Johnson is only 28 years old, so I get that people are seeing he has potential, but he has not been aging gracefully. This is a dude who hasn't been able to get above 400 yards in each of the last two seasons. He's really struggled. I don't think he's a legitimate top running back anymore. We've seen running backs burn out in this league. It's a tough physical position to play, and while you have Hopkins, a guy who is aging gracefully and will have an opportunity with an elite quarterback, I think Johnson's a guy who's going to go the other way. An aging and not aging gracefully running back in a new system. And I didn't think the Texans had bad running backs either. They didn't have one dominant dude, but you got to play to your strengths, right? And you had good receivers. You had Will Fuller. You had Hopkins. So play to your strengths, and they had put together a decent core of running backs, and to try to get an elite guy and throw away your elite receiver, to me, kind of defeats that purpose.
Well, let's jump to two things real fast. The Chargers, they're on topic. You've got Melvin Gordon and Phillip Rivers. Well, let's go to the quarterback first. You got Jacoby Brissett in Indianapolis, who they like. They love Jacoby Brissett. Rivers, they signed to a 1-year deal. That's worth about $26 million, I think it was, somewhere around there.
Yep.
But Colts, they said they're probably gonna keep Jacoby. I mean, you really can't keep two quarterbacks that you pay that much. And then also, Chargers let go of Melvin Gordon. He's a Bronco now, so they just have Tyrod Taylor. Are they gonna rebuild? I mean, the Chargers weren't a bad team. They just never got over the edge.
Yeah.
But how do you think that works out for those teams?
With the Chargers are a mess right now, in my opinion. I mean, you talk about, any team that feels like they need Tom Brady that desperately, and not to take anything away from him, but I think that is a desperate team that has no direction with their franchise. They were good, but like you said, they never were able to get over that hump, and now losing their elite players, I hate to say it, but I think that's a franchise that kind of needs to head into a rebuild. And as for Melvin Gordon to the Broncos, what do you think of the fit there? How do you feel about him with that team? You think it's a good fit for him or not?
Well, I think that Broncos need a quarterback, for one.
That's
I
true,
think
definitely.
also going back to the Chargers, Tyrod Taylor, I think that's a good fit. Him and Keenan Allen can do some damage, but they're a rebuild team. Broncos they've been on the rebuild. They still got Von Miller, Melvin Gordon. If they can land a quarterback, maybe Cam Newton, but I don't know. They just traded for another guy. They got 3 quarterbacks on their roster right now, depth chart. So who knows what to see there? But I think it's going to be interesting to see what Jacoby Brissett and the Colts do, Cam Newton does, Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota. So only Carr because, And then also, is anyone going to go to the Steelers with Big Ben getting old? Maybe they need another backup there. So there's a lot of options to go around in the league. Who knows what will happen? We'll just have to see those play out. But I think the winners of free agency is something that we should talk about next because I think –
Yeah, just real quick, want to wrap up with Melvin Gordon going to the Broncos. I personally don't feel like it's a good fit for him because you talk about an elite guy in Melvin Gordon. He's trying to win in this period, and that's something he hasn't been able to do with the Chargers. They don't have a quarterback. It's worth noting the Broncos have a decent offensive line. Their offensive line is actually one of the better ones in the league based on last season and all that. But he's going to have a tough time winning with that team, especially competing with an emerging star in Phillip Lindsay for touches. So we'll see if that really works out for him.
Yeah, I mean, you just brought up Phillip Lindsay. He's a good running back who worked for them last year. But I think what the Broncos are trying to reinvent is just they're going to be a running team. They're not going to focus on the quarterback position as much. They do got a good offensive line. Their defense is solid. They got some wins last year. They weren't one of the worst teams in the league. They're mediocre. But that then brings you also to what about the Falcons?
One more thing about that, though. Can you be a running team in today's NFL? Do you think that works anymore?
Well, yeah, it's tough. I would say that. But I think you do need more of a dual option. But we've seen teams do decent with it. I mean, with Gurley, when the Rams were 2016, I think it was, Gurley had a good year. But I think they're just going to feed Melvin. I mean, that's true. You haven't seen teams get the running game as successfully, except like the Giants, Saquon. I mean,
yeah. But here's the thing. I mean, they have the recipe there. They have a good offensive line, and they have 2 legit star running backs. But is there any team in this league that can win without at least a decent quarterback? And here's the thing. You pass the ball effectively, you're going to open up running lanes. That's just how it works. Throwing and running are going to complement each other in today's NFL. We're not playing where, back in the day, your quarterback is just another dude who runs the football. It's a 2-dimensional game, and if you can throw the ball, you open up opportunities to run it. So if the Broncos get a decent quarterback, they're a decent quarterback away from becoming a tough offense to beat. But I just don't see that happening right now. And again, we talk about Cam Newton as a fit. I don't know. Maybe you could try that.
Well, maybe you can get a Jacoby Brissett or Derek Carr, but with the Broncos, they control their own destiny. But I still don't think they're not a contender, anything close yet. But what I do think people need to watch as we were talking about Brady earlier, the AFC South, you got Emmanuel Sanders, who just went to the Saints, Todd Gurley going to the Falcons, and remember they have Gurley, Hooper. Hooper got traded to the Browns.
Yep.
He got a big contract, but you got Julio, you got Todd Gurley, Matt Ryan. That's a solid team right there.
Yeah. What do you think about? Let's talk about Gurley for a minute. Do you think that's a good fit for him with that Falcons team?
I think so. Yes, he's back in Atlanta. He wants to be there. He's with Julio. I think Matt Ryan. If they can get the ball to Julio and then they can run it with Gurley. Gurley's a good running back.
Yep.
And I think they just need to get their defense together, man. Their defense needs help.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think that Matt Ryan, and it might be an unpopular opinion because, again, quarterbacks have to win in this league for them to have a good reputation. But, we're talking about Matt Ryan, a guy who's still one of the best quarterbacks in this league. Julio Jones still has a couple more years in his prime potentially. He hasn't slowed down much at all. And, you give them a top-tier rusher, that's a pretty fearsome offense. And the Falcons' offensive line is not particularly good. Pro Football Focus has them as one of the lesser offensive lines as the metrics grade out. But at the same time, the Rams apparently, as highly touted as those guys were, they had the second worst offensive line per Pro Football Focus. And I think Gurley has the athleticism to compensate for a poor offensive line. Mm-hmm. So I think Gurley, Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, you better watch out for that team. That's going to be a tough division, and that's a really competitive team.
Well, with all the moves in free agency too, let's just look at every team real fast, each division. I mean, so the AFC East, we'll start with there first. You got the Patriots, the Bills, the Jets, and the Dolphins. Give me your winner in that division.
Well, that division has historically sucked, except for the Patriots. But we've seen a bit of a resurgence for all those teams. But the team that's really done the most to improve and was good last year is, of course, the Buffalo Bills. You talk about Josh Allen, you talk about their really underrated threats at running back, at receiver, a pretty decent defense, and you're adding Stefon Diggs, a legitimate top-tier guy, into that mix. While the Patriots have no idea who they're taking at quarterback even right now, I would take the Bills to win that division if I had to make a prediction today.
Yeah, I like that pick. And just AFC North, I mean, you got the Ravens, Steelers, Browns, and Bengals. Do you think the Browns have any potential to, get up there with the Ravens or at least make the playoffs? I personally think the Browns are a playoff team this year if they can pull it together. But when they still got a great team in Nick Chubb, Jarvis, Hooper, Beckham.
Well, listen, Brady, people have been saying that the Browns have potential ever since the Browns were bad, which is, frankly, as long as I can remember. And that is a team that just has not gelled to me right now. They haven't come together. They have that star power, but the Browns are one of those teams, I'll believe it when I see it. The Ravens have been clicking on all cylinders last season, and the Browns certainly have the potential to make the playoffs. They have the players with all the guys you mentioned, Jarvis and Chubb and Baker and whatnot, but they have to find a way to put that whole thing together to make it work. And right now, they're a team, I'll believe it when I see it because they've sucked for so long. They've kept saying they were going to be good. Last couple of years, saying they were going to be changing something. Like I said, I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, and we'll go to another division real fast. This is the division that's up for grabs. You got the Texans, the Titans, the Colts, and the Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars, they were a team that was good. I mean, they won the division, but now they're not so good. Indianapolis will be interesting with Phillip Rivers. This is a division that's up for grabs for any team. As you see, the Titans made it to the AFC Championship last year as a wild card. The Texans lost DeAndre Hopkins. You still got Tannehill and Henry, but now you got Phillip Rivers in that division. Give me your winner.
That, like you said, that's a really tough one to predict. But if I have to predict that division today, I'm going with the Tennessee Titans because I think they've got a decent defense, but there's really one reason that team is the best, and that's Derrick Henry. You're talking about the most durable, really the best running back in the world right now, and a dude who's shown that he's completely capable of carrying a team, rushing for 180 yards on a regular basis in the postseason. He's a guy who is maybe one of very few players in the NFL who can put a team on his back regardless of what he's even got around him. and I think that he's going to be capable of carrying that team along with the supplementary offense of Tannehill, and they're good, but Derrick Henry is the reason that team's the best team in the division.
Yeah, I agree there. And then to round off the AFC, I mean, this is probably an easy one. The Chiefs, Broncos, Raiders, Chargers. The Chiefs are obviously probably going to win that division. Yep. But, I mean, there's not much said about that. But give me next year, AFC Championship, just throw 2 teams out there. Who do you think?
AFC Championship? What about Chiefs and Ravens? Those are I think the Chiefs are a more well-rounded team. They're more conventional. The Ravens, again, rely a lot on Lamar Jackson's unique style, which I kept thinking was going to fail him, but it just hasn't. The Chiefs I have a little more confidence in, but the Ravens have proved that can work. So those are my AFC Championship teams. What about you?
I would agree there. I mean, I'm not going to go with the top 2 teams, I think, in that conference. I'm just going to throw 2 teams out there. I think teams need to watch out for the Bills. I think they're a dangerous threat. I think they could be the new Baltimore Ravens because their defense isn't bad.
Yep.
I still like to see the Browns, but those are just 2 teams. I personally think it's going to be Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, and maybe another team like the Browns, or who knows what's going to happen. But let's move on to the NFC real fast. Obviously, probably the craziest division in the league, the NFC East. Got the Eagles, Cowboys, Giants, Redskins. I mean, can the Cowboys finally get their crap together? And the Eagles, a former championship team, what do you think is going to go on here, man?
Okay, so the Cowboys to me are like the Browns. They're a team that no matter what people say is just not figuring it out. And no matter, how people are building up Dak Prescott, the dude's not elite. He's not that good. That's a team that relies on Ezekiel Elliott a lot. But that is a team that has just proved unable to get over the hump. Until further notice, I'm still going with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think if Carson Wentz can stay healthy, I think Carson Wentz is elite when he's a healthy quarterback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is a team with a lot of potential if he stays healthy for an entire season.
Now we move on to our division, the NFC North. You got the Packers, Vikes, Bears, and Lions. And I think that's an obvious choice. The Packers are going to retain that title. I mean, the Bears, sure, they get Nick Foles, but I don't see them making a huge jump anytime soon. Maybe they could surpass the Vikings, but who do you get there?
Well, obviously I'm a little bit biased myself, but I feel like the Packers overperformed last season, and I think they relied on a lot of underestablished guys. The football season, 16 games. You get a couple of lucky wins. The refs collude to call it a hands to the face where it wasn't.
Okay. Let's not get into specific calls, man.
You can pick up a couple of games here and there, and that can really vault your team to the next level. I think they showed they're legit. They're a good team, but, I'm a little biased, but I wouldn't count out the Chicago Bears. I think they did a lot to shore up their needs, and I think that's a team that's going to come back with a vengeance. Their defense is going to show out again, and hopefully Mitch actually figures something out. So I think that's a crazy division. I think it could go either way, but I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears.
Okay, but you did say the Browns and the Cowboys have been trying to figure it out. You got to look at the Bears, though. They've been horrible. But that's another story.
For a while, but here's the difference. That's a team that has proved they could do it. Now, if
they haven't proved anything. They haven't proved anything. They had a decent year. Everyone overhyped them last year, and they were trash.
The team went 12-4, the 3 seed in the NFC. So they proved they can be a playoff team. They proved they can make it. And if it wasn't for a double doink, who knows where we could have ended up.
You would not have gone to you guys weren't complete.
Well, that's all going to be hypothetical at this point. We can take this rivalry off the air. You want to move on?
Yeah. Let's go to I think one of the best divisions now in the league, NFC South. Saints, Falcons, Bucs, Panthers. You got elite quarterbacks here, even with Bridgewater, who I think is a stud. Who do you got?
I think that everybody's going to overhype the Bucs. Obviously, Tom Brady's great. He can only do so much for that team. They're going to be decent, but I still have a hard time going against the New Orleans Saints because Drew Brees won't slow down. Their running game is good. Their defense is good. That is one of the most complete teams in the National Football League. I still have them as one of the best teams in the league and winning that division.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see, but I think that could potentially be whoever wins the division. You got 2 wild cards coming out of that division, I think. But who knows, because you still have the 49ers. Our next division, the Niners, Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals, and NFC West. I mean, again, the Niners, they're a good team. But I don't know. This NFC, I mean, let's do the division real fast. Who do you got in the division?
Yeah, I have a hard time betting against the Niners. I think they have a great defense, and they don't have a flashy offense, but they have an offense that gets the job done. Jimmy Garoppolo is not outstanding, but he's good enough. And his ability to complete passes, even if they're not deep downfield, again, you talk about being good in the passing game will open up opportunities for your running game. And guys like Breida and Mostert, who are not star players, but have really managed to fit the whole puzzle together. That, to me, is a football team. That is not a team that relies on one player. That's an entire team.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think everyone would agree with this. NFC is a lot better than the AFC. I mean, and this playoff is going to be a fight because you have, I mean, obviously, NFC East. I don't personally think that any of those four teams would be better than the guys who make the playoffs. But I think you got the Packers, who are in playoff contention, the Saints, the Falcons, the Buccaneers, the 49ers, the Seahawks, maybe the Rams if they figure out, possibly the Cardinals, but I don't see that. The Panthers still got McCaffrey, and now they got Bridgewater. Then there's the Bears, Vikings on the horizon, and you still have the Cowboys and Eagles. So that's tough. Give me your two best teams.
Two best teams? Why don't we just make it a top three? What do you say we do a top three power rankings real quick?
All right, that sounds good to me.
I'll start it off with mine. I got the number 3 team in the league, a team that I said is one of the most complete, and I'm not going to bet against Drew Brees yet. I got the New Orleans Saints, 13-3 last season. I think they're my number 3 team. Like I said, there's nothing that this team can't do. They have potential to have an elite running game. They've got one of the most accurate passers in the history of the league. I think they're one of the most complete and best teams in the league. Moving up to number 2, I got the Baltimore Ravens. And like I said, it's just hard to say that their method works. And see how long can Lamar do what Lamar's doing. But I don't know. It's hard to bet against 14-2 and a team that did as well as that team did. And I wouldn't anticipate it to stop anytime soon. And then last but very far from least, my number 1 team, I'd have to go with the reigning Super Bowl champs in the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that they had a tough start to the season, but I also think they're so complete with a young star quarterback. I think that team is going to be good for a really long time. Only 12-4 last season, but they went on a tear at the end. And again, in football, you can lose 1 or 2 games. That happens. It's just a part of the game. But I think they really proved their mettle. They're a superior team. I think they're the best team in the NFL right now. What do you got?
I don't think the Chiefs are going to repeat. I don't think they're the best team in the league. But, I mean, they are the best team because they just won the Super Bowl. But my power rankings for this season, I would say, there's any 3 teams in the league that I could beat. I mean, I think the Bills are going to be the Titans of last year. I think the Saints, in NFC, I think the Saints, the Packers are 2 teams that they're good teams. The Niners, they're another good team. The Seahawks are still good. You could look at any team; they're all very good teams. I think Brady's going to get a wild card next year. If I had to choose 3 right now, I don't know. I don't know if the Ravens, everyone could figure out their scheme. Right now, I got number 3. I would probably go with the New Orleans Saints, just as you said. They're probably a 2, but we'll go with 3 for right now. Number 2, I'll give it to the Kansas City Chiefs. They're the Super Bowl champs. They have everything. They have nothing to lose because everyone else has to prove it to beat them. And then number 1, you know where I'm going, Ethan.
Oh, God.
You know where I'm going.
You can't even say that.
The Pack.
You can't even say
why?
that.
You know why? I'm going to explain.
Number 1 team.
Let me explain. We have
a bunch of old dudes as
Aaron Jones, Aaron Rodgers. We just signed Devin Funchess. We had Devontae Adams. We have young guys. Sure, we lost Blake Martinez to the Giants. Our defense is still fire. Za'Darius Smith, Preston Smith. We have everything we need. And not only that, we are winning the Super Bowl next year. That is final. Pack all the way, baby.
All right. This
and
wasn't really...
Antonio Brown might come to the Packers. I'm just going to put that out there right now.
Okay, buddy. Well, if you're going to insert some fandom into this show, real quick, I want to wrap this thing up. by asking who's the winner of free agency. And, in my opinion, it's tough to really declare a winner of free agency. But I would say the Chicago Bears are the team that did the best to fill in their specific team needs in free agency. Not the winner, because there's a lot of teams.
Wait. Did I just hear you right?
You heard me right. I said they filled in their specific team needs. So you can't call them the winner flat out because they did not add a top threat. But they had two weaknesses, right? And those were they had terrible tight ends, and they need somebody to put pressure on Mitch Trubisky. And they were able to fill both those needs in. So they have tight ends that sucked right now, right? I know Trey Burton was hurt a lot, but I don't think they had a single guy at tight end.
So Jimmy Graham's the answer, who's old?
Well, they didn't have a single guy who got above 100 yards even. I guarantee you the over-under on Jimmy Graham is better than 100 yards.
Okay, but
not to mention he can help be a mentor to some of those young guys in much a way that I think the second issue that they've solved is putting pressure on Mitch Trubisky. They bring in a guy, Super Bowl champion. I believe he was in a Pro Bowl back in 2014, was it? Guy who's got a ton of potential, but also can serve as a really good mentor to Mitch Trubisky, helping him develop and help him handle all the pressure of the Windy City. But at the same time, if it does come time to pull the plug on Mitch, you got a Pro Bowler, a Super Bowl champion who is very capable of succeeding with the team. He's been inconsistent in his career, but I think there's no reason why he couldn't be a good starting quarterback. So again, not the winner of free agency. I don't think they're the team that did the most to help them out, but I think they are the team that did the best job filling in their specific needs.
Well, since you mentioned Foles, it was 2014. He was an alternate and he was drafted. That was when they had the team Sanders and everything. And also the year before that in 2013, he had a great game where he had 7 touchdowns. It was a perfect game. I mean, he's a good quarterback, but
he's inconsistent, but he definitely.
I think the obvious winner of free agency. Well, there's 2 really. Well, no, I'll put it this way: there's 3 good teams that won free agency.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You can't really say there's a winner of free agency because so many teams added number 1 threats. That's why I'm more saying the team that did the most to fill in their needs, not just a winner.
But the Bills, I think they really helped their core. I think they're a really potential threat. I think the Saints added another wide receiver to go along with Breeze, Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas. That's another good team. And then I think the Falcons adding Todd Gurley. It's not cleaning their defense. I don't think they're really winning. Right now, I got the Buffalo Bills, the New Orleans Saints, and either the Falcons or some team like that. And wherever Antonio Brown goes, that's going to be a big thing. But also remember the Buccaneers. And just Jameis Winston still floating. You have so many quarterbacks. It's all going to change in the snap of a finger.
Yep. A lot going down. But I guess that'll do it for us. This has been Coronavirus Boredom Sports here. And we'll see you later for me and JD. So long. Have a good day. Stay safe.
Adios.